So let's proceed to the next section. So the next section is about examination, registration, and licensure of CPAs. So for this one, we will discuss the section 3 no, of the Philippine Accountancy Act rather. So and the rule 3 of the IRR. And we also have a number of relevant resolutions of the BOA updating the rules no, in the manner of the conduct of the CPA licensure examination. So next, we will discuss the qualifications of applications for licensure examination for CPAs. So by the way, the LECPA or the licensure examination for CPAs is the government administered board examination. Okay, so to permit no one to practice accountancy here in the Philippines. So we normally apply with the PRC or the Professional Regulation Commission to be admitted to practice accountancy here in the Philippines. So there's a license required. And once you have passed the licensure examination for CPAs and satisfy all the requirements of our government, particularly the PRC and the BOA, so you will be conferred no the title Certified Public Accountant or CPA. So to apply for the licensure examination for CPAs, so one should be a Filipino citizen. Now take note this time that the requirement is only a Filipino citizen, not necessarily naturalized. So whether you are a natural born Filipino citizen or naturalized Filipino citizen, so you are allowed to take the CPA board examination or the licensure examination for CPAs. So you are of good moral character. So holder of a degree of Bachelor of Science in Accountancy or BSA. So take note, it should be BSA. So BSBA is not allowed, okay? Or any other course, no? Like for example, Bachelor of Science in Management Engineering. So it should be strictly BSA or Bachelor of Science in Accountancy. So per our RA 9298. And you are not convicted of any criminal offense involving moral turpitude. So the documentary requirements that we need to submit to PRC when we apply for LECPA examination or licensure examination for CPAs. So we need to submit our PSA Live Birth Certificate. So PSA stands for Philippine Statistics Authority. So formally, it's called NSO Live Birth Certificate. No, but currently, it's PSA Live Birth Certificate. So we also need PSA marriage contract, only applicable for married female applicants. So if you are male, whether married or unmarried, no need to submit marriage contract. Okay? But for female applicants, you need only PSA marriage contract if you are married. So if you are unmarried, so no need to submit marriage contract. So we also need to submit college diploma and transcript of records. Although per practice, so usually it's only the transcript of records which is being asked by the PRC for processing. Okay, but per our IRR, so college diploma was also mentioned. So next we have NBI clearance and the others that BOA may require. So normally A to D are the documentary requirements that we submit when we apply for examination for the LECPA. So the scope of examination per IRR to RA 9298. So we used to have 7 subjects in the board exam. So we have Theory of Accounts, Practical Accounting 1, Practical Accounting 2, Auditing Theory and Auditing Problems, Management Services, and Business Law and Taxation. But beginning May 2016 examination, so the 7 subjects were reduced to 6. So the Theory of Accounts and Practical Accounting 1, the theoretical and computational aspect of financial accounting, so became part of one subject, Financial Accounting and Reporting, so consisting of 70 items in the board examination. Now, the theory aspect and the computational aspect of Practical Accounting 2, so became Advanced Financial Accounting and Reporting, consisting also of 70 questions. The auditing theory and auditing problems, So were merged into one subject, auditing, consisting of 70 questions. So management services retained, it became management advisory services. And business law and taxation were split into two subjects. So one, regulatory framework for business transaction consisting of 100 questions, and taxation consisting of 70 questions. Okay, MAS is also 70. So all of the subjects in the CPA board examination consist of 70 items each, except RFBT. Now, because for regulatory framework for business and transactions, there are 100 items or questions. And then finally, the board, subject to approval of PRC, so may revise or exclude any of the subject and their syllabi and add new ones as the need arises, but it should not be more frequent than every 3 years. So BOA has the power to revise the syllabi, so including the subjects included in the CPA licensure examination. Okay? So in fact, there's also now talks no about impending updates on the RA 9298, but that is yet to be seen. So because it needs to be passed, no, so by our lawmakers, so before they can become effective. Okay, so but with respect to the syllabi, so what I mentioned is that for the law itself, no, for the changes in the law will be affected. So once they are passed by our lawmakers, but with respect to the CPA board examination, the Board of Accountancy can change it, without the need to run through the lawmakers, for example, the syllabi and then the content of the CPA examination. So the BOA has the power to modify them. And then, so how to pass in the CPA licensure examination or licensure examination for CPAs, LECPA. So to pass the LECPA, the candidate must obtain a weighted general average of 75%. And there's additional requirement, no? There should be no grade lower than 65%. So according to the chairman of the Board of Accountancy in his talk, no, last 76 PICPA National Convention held as November 2021. So he said that the CPA licensure examination or the licensure examination for CPA has the highest standard, no, with respect to board examination here in the Philippines. Okay, so because he mentioned that other PRC administered board examination have more relaxed requirements when it comes to passing. Okay, but for licensure examination for CPAs, it is very strict. The standards are high. So at least obtain at least 75% weighted average. So how is this computed? So you add all your scores in all the CPA exam divided by 6. Okay, and no grade, individual grade lower than 65%. Now, in the event did not meet any of the above requirement, so for example, you did not obtain a weighted average grade of 75%, so, or you get a grade lower than 65 in any of the subject, or worse, you did not get a grade at least 75 and you also have a grade lower than 65. So, the good news is that you are not automatically failed. So, again, if you did not get a grade of at least 75, or you get a grade of at least 75, but you got below 65 in any of the subject, or worse, you did not satisfy both. So even if you did not satisfy both, no, meaning you have general average below 75 and you also have a grade below 65, so that's not an automatic fail. So because you still have to determine the number of individual subject where you got a rating of at least 75%. So in the event that you have obtained a rating of at least 75 and above in at least majority of the subject, 4 out of 6, then you shall receive a conditional credit for the subject passed. So that's we call condi or conditional. And you have to retake the remaining exam. Highlight, guys, no, this is very important. Below 75. So those exams that you need to retake are those below 75. Not just those grade below 65, no? Within 2 years from the preceding examination. And then finally, the same criteria apply. So you have to obtain at least 75% in the subjects you have retaken, and no grade below 65% no, in the subjects retaken. Okay? So if not, if you are not able to satisfy both criteria, then that's the time you will be considered failed in the entire exam. Now, in case of conditional status, the original examination as well as the conditional exam or the re-examination are considered as one complete examination even if you took them into separate board exams. So like for example, you took the exam in October 2021 and then you failed, okay? So that is one complete examination. But let's say, for example, you took the exam October 2021, you obtain a conditional status, you have retook the subject, no, you have retaken the subject May 2022, and then you failed. So you are considered failed in one complete exam only, even if you have taken the exam, one in October and one in May 2022. Sige, let's illustrate. Okay, so by the way, the Board of Accountancy calculates the percentage or the average rounded to 2 decimal places. So 74.99 is not considered 75%. Okay? So you should get at least 75%. So there are cases, no, documented cases in the past wherein the examinee got 74.5, 74.6, but that is not considered passing percentage as far as the BOA rules are concerned. So let's say candidate A, so got 90 in FAR, 85 in AFAR, so 75 in odd or subject, so 83 in MAS, 80 in RFBT, and 79 in taxation. So you have to get the average. So you have to add the 6 scores, total divided by 6. So in this case, this is 82%. So what are the criteria again? 1, obtain a general weighted average of at least 75, check, and no grades below 65. So 90, 85, 75, 83, 80, and 79. So no grades below 65. So therefore, candidate A passed the CPA board examination. So let's have another example. So let's say candidate B. So got 80 in FAR, 68 AFAR, 75 in odd, 70 in MAS, 79 in RFBT, and 78 in tax. So add the total scores divided by 6. So how much do we get? So flat 75. Okay, well. So that is exactly the passing percentage. So however, it's not the only criterion. So we have to check whether the candidate has a grade lower than 65. Okay? So sir, his or her grade in AFAR is 68. So that's okay. That's still at least 65%. Okay? So the 75 is needed only for the general weighted average. But for individual grade, it shall be not lower than 65%. So 68 is okay. So candidate B is still what? Passed. No? So candidate B is still considered passing, or he still his score, no, or his grades are considered passing percentage as far as the requirements are concerned. Now let's look at candidate letter C. So candidate letter C got the same scores as candidate letter B, except for one subject, auditing. So let's say in auditing, he got 74. So one score short compared to candidate B. But the rest, same with candidate B, who already passed the CPA board examination. So what is the average of candidate C? The average of candidate C would obviously be below 75. So because candidate B earlier got flat 75, no, having the same set of grade but higher in auditing by 1 point. So candidate C got 74.83. And as far as the BOA rules are concerned, no, so this is not 75. So therefore, candidate C did not meet one of the criteria to pass the CPA licensure examination. Is he or she already failed? Not yet. So we still have to count individual grades where the candidate got at least 75. And that includes FAR, that is 80. 68 exclude, this is below 75. Odd exclude, below 75. MAS exclude, below 75. RFBT include 79, at least 75. And taxation include at least 75. So how many subjects did he or she got at least 75? 1, 2, and 3 only. So we mentioned earlier at least 4 to be able to obtain the conditional status. So in this case, candidate C is considered what? Failed in the examination. Okay, so that is why you have to recognize at this point that in the licensure examination for CPAs, every question counts. No? Every point counts. So even if you saw in the TOS, it's just one question. No? So you cannot discount that. So because every point matters in the licensure examination for CPAs. So consider the situation of BNC. They almost have the same scores except for 1 point in one subject. But that already spelled the difference between the two. B is passed and C is failed. Not even conditional. Okay? So that's how each point is important in the LECPA. Let's continue. Let's have another candidate, letter D. So letter D, 87 plus 69 plus 75 plus 65 plus 76 plus 76, we have 74.67. Again, not 75. So therefore, not satisfied the criteria to pass the CPA licensure examination. But then again, not yet failed. We still have to count the grade where the candidate got at least 75 in each subject. So in this case, 87, this is 1. 69 exclude. 75, yes, included. 65 exclude. 76 include. And 76 include. So how many? So 1, 2, 3, and 4. At least 4. So candidate D is not considered failed. Okay? So but rather what? But rather conditional. Condition. Okay? And which exams D should retake in the next examination? We have AFAR, so 69, and MAS 65. Okay? Sir, candidate D got at least 65, no, in AFAR. So regardless, because what needed to be retaken or the subjects that need to be retaken are those below 75. So even if this is 69, even if this is 65, so the candidate should retake them. Another example, we have candidate E. So for example, candidate E, so 91 plus 89 plus 64 plus 92 plus 85 plus 74. So these are fairly good grades. So the average is 82.5. Okay, so this is a passing percentage for general weighted average. However, there's another criteria. There should be no grade lower than 65. However, in auditing, the candidate got 64. So that is a disqualifying grade. So even though he got 82.5, he or she is not considered as having passed the CPA exam. Okay? However, he or she is not yet failed also yet. Not just yet. We have to count subjects where he got at least 75. So we get 91 in FAR, 89 in AFAR, MAS 92, and RFBT 85. Okay, so at least 4. So therefore, candidate E is considered what? Condition. Okay, so what should E retake in the next CPA examination? Okay, sir, auditing because it's 64. But not only auditing, but also taxation. Although it's 74, it needs to be retaken because you have to retake grades lower than 75. No? Not just those lower than 65. So in this case, retake, auditing, and taxation. Let's have last candidate. So candidate F, FAR 90, AFAR 95, OD 80, and MAS 85. However, no? So candidate F was not able to attend the last day of the examination. So usually it's given two, no, per day. So there are in the past, no, 4 days for the board examination, but now it was reduced to 3 days. So because we only now have 6 subjects, so two examination per day. So on the last day, the candidate was not able to attend the board examination. So therefore, he got zero. So probably he got sick, okay? Or there was an emergency. So he was not able to take RFPT and tax, for example. But take note also that if you did not attend your scheduled examination from the very beginning, so let's say you registered for the CPA board examination, but you did not appear on the first day, you will not be considered failed. Now that is considered what? No show. So if you are no show, you are not considered failed. You are allowed not to take the examination again on the next CPA licensure examination. Okay, but if you have attended the first day of exam and then you miss the other day, then your examination for that other day would be considered as failed. So in this case, the grade of candidate F is 58.33. Sir, that is super failed. Not yet. So let's check, no? So 75%, no. No, in fact, it's very low, 58. So no grade below 65 with grade below 65. In fact, they were zero. So candidate F did not meet both the requirements to pass the CPA licensure examination. But then again, it's not yet considered failed as yet. We have to count subject at least 75. So we have 90, 95, 80, and 85. So how many? At least 4. Majority. So therefore, candidate F is not considered failed because once the candidate obtain at least 75 in 4 subjects, he or she is considered conditional. So therefore, candidate F is allowed to retake the examination for RFPT and tax in the next board examination, and he or she will receive conditional credit for this 4 subject. Okay, so even if he did not meet the average criteria and even the below 65 in the individual exam. So finally, the Board of Accountancy shall submit to the Commission the ratings obtained by each candidate within 10 calendar days after the last day of the examination for LECPA. So unless extended for just cause. So within 10 days, you will already know whether you are a CPA or not yet. So next, refresher course. So if you have failed to complete examination, you shall be disqualified from taking another set unless you enrolled and completed at least 24 units of subjects given in the licensure exam, and the condition exam and the removal exam in which you failed shall be counted as one complete exam. We already explained this earlier. So, but recently, the BOA added additional rule. So, you will get a refresher certificate from the higher educational institution which is recognized by CHED, where you enrolled and complete at least 24 units. So that refresher certificate shall be valid from 2 years, for 2 years from the date of issuance. So meaning to say, guys, when you fail to complete examinations, so you need to enroll where? In a higher educational institution, meaning a university or college, no, conferring BSA degree. Okay, so you cannot have it in a review center. So, but rather in a recognized, CHED recognized university or college, school. So, you have to enroll in at least 24 units of the subject given in the licensure examination. So, finally, after you pass the CPA licensure exam or LECPA, so you are required to take oath of profession. So before any member of the board or authorized government official like in the PRC. And then upon taking your oath of profession, so you will be issued your certificate of registration. So it looks something like this. So the certificate of registration or COR is valid until revoked. So it does not have an expiry date. So it includes the name of the CPA, your CPA registration number, and signature of the PRC chairman, BOA chairman, and the members of the BOA. So another credential that you'll receive is the professional identification card. So the PIC or the PRCIT. So this time, this is renewable every 3 years. Now, unlike the certificate of registration, which does not have an expiry. So it will expire on the third year exactly on your birth date. So that is done so that you can easily remember it. So it will include the name of the CPA, the CPA registration number, and this time only the signature of the PRC chair is present. Now, unlike in the certificate of registration, so you have the signature including the BOA chairman and the members. So these are the similarities and differences so between the COR and the professional identification card. So, and speaking of the oath of profession, so you will take an oath. So this is an example of the oath that we will take. Okay, so before we receive those credentials. So usually this oath will be taken at a venue, no, specified by the Board of Accountancy. So after the results of the CPA board examination are released. Okay, so in the past, it is usually being held in a big venue like the PICC. Okay, so the PICC in Pasay, that's where we take our oath. Okay, or any other venue as mandated by the BOA. So for example, in the provinces, so they will have a separate venue there, so where the CPAs will take their oath of profession. So during that ceremony, that is also where you will receive your credentials, the COR and the professional identification card. So in the event you were not able to attend the oath taking ceremony, then you will have to claim your credentials from the PRC after also taking your oath there before authorized government official. So these are the procedures, no, to accomplish your oath. So you'll have to pay a fee, no, for the credentials. So and attend, no, the oath taking ceremony. So where do we indicate our credentials? So we are required to put on the documents that we sign or issue our certificate of registration number. So the date of issuance of our COR and the professional identification card. So the duration of the validity of the professional identification card, no, because remember COR does not have an expiry date. And our professional tax receipt number. Guys, when you become professionals in the future, now once you pass the CPA board examination, so you need to pay professional tax to your LGU, not to the jurisdiction where you practice. So it is being paid in the local government unit office. So that is the city hall or the town hall of your area of practice. Okay, so usually that is around 300 pesos per year. You have to pay that every January. So the deadline is midway of January normally. Okay, so you always have to pay that. Okay, because once the need for your professional tax receipt arises in the future, for example, after X number of years that you are practicing, you decided to venture to practice on your own. So you will be surprised that a professional tax record is required, but you were not paying your professional tax in the past or prior years where you were just where you were still an employee, for example. Then you could have a problem because you have to pay arrears and penalties. So it's better to pay your professional tax every year, starting from the time that you pass the CPA board examination. Okay. However, some companies, the human resource department would be the one who will arrange or process this one for you. But you have to make sure that your company is processing your professional tax for you or on your behalf. Because otherwise, you have to pay it personally in the local government unit where you are practicing. And then another indication is that the use of a seal. So we have to obtain and use a seal prescribed by the Board of Accountancy. So bearing our name, our registration number, and our title. So our professional seal normally looks like this. So we have the CPA engraved in the middle of the smaller circle. Our name at the top, no, between the space of the larger and smaller circle, and our registration number below between the space of the smaller circle and the larger circle. So this is how our seal will look like. And we will append it on the reports or documents that we will issue. Now, there are instances wherein your credentials may not be issued to you, or once issued, they may still be canceled or revoked, no, by our professional regulatory board, no, by our BOA. So grounds for non-issuance of CPA credential. So let's say you passed the CPA board examination, and before the oath taking, you committed the following, any of the following. So criminal offense involving moral turpitude. You are guilty of immoral or dishonorable conduct. So you are of unsound mind and you falsely sworn or misrepresented yourself in your application in the examination. So let's say you are not really a graduate of BSA, but you represented yourself as a graduate of BSA and it was discovered later on before your credentials were issued. Then that will be a ground for the non-issuance of your credential. Okay? Now, let's say you already received your credential, your COR and PRC ID. However, you committed the following. So same with this set. Okay, so same with non-issuance, this four. And in addition, malpractice of the profession and violation of the RA 9298, its IRR, Code of Ethics and Professional Standards. So then your certificate and PRC ID can be revoked. Okay? So when you say canceled, no, or revoked, so it will be taken from you and you cannot practice your profession anymore. However, the board may, after expiration of 2 years from the date of revocation and for proper and sufficient reason, so the board may reinstate the validity of revoked certificate. But take note that this is not automatic. So this is subject to the prerogative of the board. So after 2 years, if you acted properly, okay, so exhibited good conduct, so the board may decide to reinstate the validity of your revoked certificate. Okay. So usually we have the as for the penalty, we have the suspension. Suspension is less severe compared to cancellation. So revocation or cancellation is the more severe, no? So more severe penalty or sanction with respect to your credentials, the validity of your credentials.